C-5 Galaxy, the plane that can move the world. In the pre-dawn darkness of April 1975, as the final days of the Vietnam War unfolded, one of the largest aircraft in history descended into the chaos of Saigon. Its mission was desperate and clear: evacuate as many orphans as possible before the city fell. The aircraft was the Lockheed C-5 Galaxy, a machine so vast that it could swallow main battle tanks and still have room for trucks and pallets of supplies. That day, in what would later be called Operation Baby Lift, the C-5 carried hundreds of children and caretakers in a mission that pushed the aircraft and its crew to the limit. Tragedy struck when a mechanical failure crippled the giant moments after takeoff, forcing an emergency landing that claimed many lives. Yet the mission revealed the C-5's unmatched capacity for humanitarian and military operations alike. The Lockheed C-5 Galaxy was never designed to be glamorous. Its place in aviation history is not marked by speed records or aerial combat, but by its ability to move the immovable. Conceived in the height of the Cold War, the C-5 was the United States Air Force's answer to a problem that stretched across oceans and continents: how to deliver entire armies, with all their equipment, anywhere on Earth in a matter of hours. At the time, the logistics of such an undertaking seemed impossible. The C-5 would make it possible. The program began in the early 1962 when military planners realized that existing transport aircraft could not handle the growing size and weight of modern armored vehicles, missile systems, and other strategic equipment. The United States was engaged in a global competition with the Soviet Union, and mobility was as critical as firepower. Lockheed won the contract to build the behemoth, designing an aircraft that could carry more than 250,000 pounds of cargo, take off from relatively short runways, and fly intercontinental distances without refueling. This required a scale of engineering that pushed the boundaries of aviation technology. When the first C-5 rolled out in 1968, its dimensions were staggering. Stretching over 247 feet in length, with a wingspan wider than a football field, it dwarfed anything that had flown before in military service. The dual cargo doors at the nose and tail allowed vehicles to drive straight through, enabling rapid loading and unloading. Its sheer presence on the tarmac was a statement of American reach, a reminder to allies and adversaries alike that no corner of the globe was beyond the logistical arm of the United States Air Force. Early service, however, was not without turbulence. The aircraft faced severe structural and maintenance problems, prompting costly redesigns and sparking political controversy. Critics in Congress questioned whether the C-5 was worth the enormous investment. Yet despite its flaws, the aircraft proved indispensable in missions that no other platform could accomplish. During the Yom Kippur War in 1973, the United States used the C-5 to deliver heavy tanks, artillery, and supplies to Israel in Operation Nickel Grass. Flying non-stop missions across the Atlantic, the Galaxies ensured that Israel could sustain its defenses during a critical moment in the conflict. These early strategic airlift missions revealed another facet of the C-5's power: deterrence. By rapidly reinforcing allies in times of crisis, the United States sent a clear message that it could project overwhelming force anywhere in the world, often within days. The Soviet Union monitored these movements closely, knowing that a single C-5 sortie could shift the balance in a regional conflict. One of the most overlooked chapters in the C-5's history came during the Cold War's nuclear standoff. While the aircraft was never intended to deliver nuclear weapons in combat, it was central to moving the infrastructure that supported America's strategic arsenal. Components for intercontinental ballistic missiles, mobile radar arrays, and even parts of stealth aircraft prototypes were quietly ferried aboard Galaxies under strict security. In many cases, these flights occurred under the cover of routine logistics, masking their true strategic importance from prying eyes. Beyond war, The C-5 has been a frequent visitor to disaster zones. In 1988, after a massive earthquake devastated Armenia, C-5 Second carried tons of relief supplies and heavy machinery to aid in recovery. In the aftermath of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, they were among the first American aircraft to deliver critical humanitarian aid, landing in damaged airports that had only recently been cleared for operations. These missions cemented the Galaxy's reputation as not only a tool of war, but also a lifeline in moments of catastrophe. The turn of the 21st century brought a new era of military engagement, and the C-5 adapted once again. In the invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq, Galaxies were tasked with moving everything from armored vehicles to attack helicopters, often flying directly into forward-deployed bases. Their massive capacity reduced the number of flights needed, which in turn reduced exposure to threats. In some cases, C-5 Second flew into airfields where the runway length barely met the minimum requirements for such a large aircraft, showcasing both the skill of their crews and the ruggedness of the design. During Operation Iraqi Freedom, one mission stood out to military logisticians. A single C-5 delivered an entire Patriot missile battery, complete with radar units, launchers, and missiles, in one trip. Such a load would have required multiple flights for smaller aircraft. For ground commanders awaiting the equipment, the sight of the Galaxy taxiing in meant the difference between vulnerability and readiness. Upgrades have kept the C-5 relevant well beyond what many expected. The C-5M Super Galaxy Modernization Program replaced engines, avionics, and structural components, giving the aircraft greater range, reliability, and fuel efficiency. These upgrades also reduced the crew workload, allowing for longer missions without sacrificing performance. Military analysts note that the modernized C-5M can carry heavier loads over greater distances than any other aircraft in the world, a fact that continues to give the United States a unique strategic advantage. Even with modern competitors, the C-5 remains irreplaceable for certain tasks. While the Boeing C-17 Globemaster III is more flexible for shorter runways and smaller payloads, only the Galaxy can handle the largest and heaviest pieces of equipment in the arsenal. From mobile radar stations to experimental hypersonic test vehicles, if it needs to fly and it is too large for anything else, it goes into a C-5. Perhaps the most telling measure of the C-5's legacy comes from those who have flown it. Pilots often speak of the unique challenge of managing such a massive aircraft at low speeds during approach or takeoff. Loadmasters describe the intricate planning needed to balance massive payloads while ensuring that unloading can be done in minutes upon arrival. Maintenance crews talk of long nights and far-off airfields, keeping the aircraft mission-ready in punishing climates. These stories reveal that the C-5 is more than an engineering achievement. It is a living system, dependent on the skill and dedication of those who operate it. In recent years, the Galaxy has also been a central player in multinational exercises, delivering equipment for Allied forces during joint operations. Its arrival at foreign bases often draws crowds, not just for its sheer size, but for what it represents: the ability of the United States to back up its commitments with tangible, heavy support. In an age of geopolitical uncertainty, that capability is as important as ever. Today, the C-5 fleet is smaller than in its Cold War heyday, but each remaining aircraft is maintained with the expectation that it will serve into the late 2032. Retired Galaxies are often parked at the aircraft boneyard in Arizona, stripped for parts to keep their sisters flying. Yet as long as there is a need to move the heaviest military cargo across the world, there will be a place for the C-5. The Lockheed C-5 Galaxy is not a symbol of cutting-edge stealth or supersonic speed. It is, instead, a symbol of endurance and utility, an aircraft that has carried the weight of American military power on its wings for over half a century. Whether delivering hope to disaster zones or the tools of war to distant battlefields, it continues to prove that sometimes the most decisive aircraft in history are not the ones that fire the first shot, but the ones that make the fight possible.